It's honestly insane how politicians will be this religious, claiming that uh, their fictional being has been given control over everything in the entire world. Uh, this is about Dusty, what, Deevers or whatever his last name is. I don't really care about his last name or who he actually is. He's just a basically a Nazi who thinks that Jesus Christ has been given control over everything in the world, which then means that Christians gets to dictate the types of laws and stuff that goes on in the United States and around the world. Uh,
Rose from the dead. 40 days later, he was seated at the right hand of the Father on high. And at that moment, the Father gave him the nations, and he set him above every authority and every name that is named in heaven and on earth and under the earth.
he is saying that because his fictional being was murdered by his own person, you know, since this is supposed to be considered God, and since Jesus died due to God's plan, Jesus killed himself. That gives him the ability to control every single nation in the entire world, and that since he's this Christian believer in that he also has the authority to dictate what goes on. That's just true insanity.
Christ is Lord of lords. He is King of kings. He is the sovereign.
Jesus Christ is King of Kings. He is a king who gets to dictate whatever. He is the sovereign being who gets to control everything. So, okay, I mean, if this is even true whatsoever, why isn't this Jesus character coming down to earth and speaking to people about what is supposed to happen? That never happens whatsoever. God, nor Jesus, or anything like that comes to earth and tells people what is going on. We're supposed to believe that these insane religious nuts uh, speak to God and stuff like that, and then get to dictate what these beings said. That is true insanity to claim that you're speaking to some God being and they're telling you what the laws are supposed to be and who gets to make said laws.
So on that day, he said, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me." And what did he say he would give the son? Ask of me, and I will give the nations as your inheritance. Now, are we starting to work back to some?
Why does Jesus even care about being the leaders of these nations? It's like, again, this is just true insanity. It's believing that they're talking to some fictional being and that this fictional being is telling them what to do.
Some of the things that we talked about earlier. Why has God set the peoples, the times, and the places of the nations? They exist for the glory of the Son. They exist for Christ to rule over them.
So he's saying that certain nations only exist to give glory to the Son, that they only exist to prop up Jesus Christ, and so that Jesus Christ can rule over them. That's true insanity, claiming that people only exist in order to make another person look better.
Jesus has been given the nations as his heritage. You either submit to God through Jesus Christ, or even nations will submit to their enemy of their souls, the serpent. In that age-old warfare that we are facing, that's why the nations rage.
He is saying that you either submit to what he believes or you're considered an enemy to what he believes. Again, this is true insanity to claim that anybody who doesn't bow down to your belief system is an evil person or an enemy, because they don't believe what you believe.
That's why globalist entities like the World Economic Forum, like the World Health Organization, like the United Nations, like the Council on Foreign Relations, like all of these others, set themselves against the Lord. They are plotting in vain, friends. If
Well, the United Nations is plotting in vain against his belief system. Again, this is just true insanity. This guy is like a politician and stuff, and he's screaming insanities at people, and we're supposed to believe him.
we do not stand up to these global bodies who are usurpers, then it will be to our own demise and our own judgment.
Yet he doesn't believe the verses in the Bible that says that every single person set in power is set in power because God has willed it. He thinks he gets to fight against those put into positions of power because his God has ordained that. Like, doesn't that mean he's fighting against his own God?
We can have Christ as king or we can have Christ's judgment. Which do you want?
We can have Christ as king. I mean, that's with a lot of these like Christian nationalists. They think that Christ is king, and they think that like they're okay because Christ is king, and that everybody has to bow down to Christianity and Jesus Christ, even the supposed chosen people, the Israelis in Israel, who are considered the chosen people of God. They're required to bow down and submit to Christianity and become Christian. Because in the book of Revelations, it says that every single person will be forced to convert to Christianity or be murdered, even Jewish people. And this dude is okay with Jewish people being murdered or being forced to convert to Christianity, which you would think that would be pretty anti-Semitic to claim.
Because Christ is King of kings and Lord of lords, He is the only rightful ruler with sovereign jurisdiction over all the world and all the peoples of all times and all places. Therefore, nations will rise and fall on the basis of their submission to Christ.
How is this any different than like some like, radical extremist Muslim claiming that every single person should be submitting to Allah, and if they don't submit to Allah, that they're an enemy of Allah, and that it's okay to fight against the enemies of Allah?
Serve Him. Kiss the Son.